how he sees Bhagavad Gita as a source for us to derive all aspects of our health, physical, emotional, cognitive in our case for devotees is Shastra. And social health in our case is Vaishnava interactions. Spiritual health, we all know Krishna Katha and Krishna Nama. So we will hear from His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu how he would see Bhagavad Gita as a source of strength and inspiration for us to be able to get the guidance from all these aspects. Yeah, so that will be the plan. And we are waiting for him to connect. He just finished with the program. He was busy, but was kind enough to come onto this platform. And just to fill in this time that we have until Prabhu joins. He was talking about, we were discussing about this WDC, Wholesome Devotee Care initiative. And Prabhuji was saying how this is more of a grassroots, personalized approach and has a lot of potential to touch the devotees' lives at all levels, as opposed to the centralized approach of devotee care. So we are very hopeful and we are very fortunate that we are able to get together on this Zoom platform to care for ourselves on all aspects. And we are doing all this so our spiritual health can be strong. And our goal is Namaruchi. And our platform of wholesome devotee care is to help us walk through this sadhana bhakti to get to this Namaruchi through Jivadaya and Vaishnava Seva. So that's a bigger perspective of wholesome devotee care. And we have divided this wholesome devotee care into 5 aspects, as we have just discussed. The physical health aspect was already taken care of.
Sorry to disturb you, Mataji. Prabhu is here already.
Oh, he's good. Very good.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Awesome. I was just filling in the time. Yes. Awesome. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Thank you so very much. I was just trying to fill in the time. Such an honor to have you here, Prabhuji. And our special thanks to you because you are very busy. And this was a last minute request and you agreed to be with us. Dear devotees, we don't need any introduction for Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. We all know him so very well, but just for a few words. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is a member of Shastrika, ISKCON Shastrika Advisory Committee, and he has a spiritual scientist. That's the website. And how Prabhuji presents bhakti in a more analytical and intellectual way to cater to the needs of the intellectuals. That is amazing. These are only few words. We all know much more about Prabhuji, and at a personal level, is very much approachable, kind, willing, encouraging, giving feedback, very honest feedback. So we are thankful for that too, Prabhuji. Over to you. Please go. I will try to mute all so there are no interruptions in between.
Mataji, I also logged in through my tablet. Can you make me a co-host there? Because I would like to share the screen.
Yes.
You are co-host, Prabhu, already.
Yes, thank you.
No, from the tablet.
So, Pran Pavitra Prabhu, there are 2 logins.
Okay, man. So, what is the other name, Prabhu?
It should also be Chaitanya Charan only. Just see.
There should be 2 with Prabhu's names.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I did it now. Yeah.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshuruhmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Happy to be here with all of you. It's laudable that there is a excellent devotee care initiative happening here, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And I'll speak about the Bhagavad Gita from the perspective of how it is related with our health. I'll connect with those aspects of the Gita's teachings which relate with the concept of care and health. So now, generally, when we use the word health, in Sanskrit, the word is swasthya. Swasthya or swastha. Now, this comes from the Sanskrit swa. This comes from the Sanskrit swa asthitaha. So, sthita is situation. And swa asthitaha means situated in one's own situation. So, swa, one's own. So, when is one healthy? When we are in our own situation. So, in one sense, the key to health, and then ultimately towards so health means to be situated in our own situation, and care is that which enables us to move towards health. Care promotes health. So, for example, there's health care specifically, which generally refers to physical health care. You can have mental health care. But in general, the idea of care is meant to promote health. It's like parents take care of children, and a basic level of taking care of children is that the children are healthy. So now in the Bhagavad Gita itself, we start, if we consider the 18 chapters of the Gita.
Even fully brighter than the other nine, the brighter.
Replace this.
Can you please mute everyone?
Energy efficient.
Yeah.
So if you see the start of the Gita, especially around 128 to 30, Arjuna is exhibiting symptoms of breakdown. It is basically an emotional and even a physical breakdown. Physical breakdown is he's saying that I can't hold on to my bow and arrow. Bow primarily. Gandivam samsate hastad. Tvak chaiva paridhahyate. He's saying that my skin is burning. What does this indicate? If you consider the body to be like a tool, there's something seriously wrong with it. It's not functioning. And then in 1873, Arjuna says that Sitosmi gata sandeha. He says, I'm peacefully situated now. So, in one sense, the Gita restores Arjuna's functionality. Arjuna has become emotionally and physically dysfunctional. But by hearing the Gita's message, he says, Sthito. Now, the word Sthito asmi. Sthito is related to Swa Asthitaha. Sthita. I am well situated. I am self situated. I am Swa Astha. So, the Gita, in one sense, the Gita's journey, it restores Arjuna's health. Health in the sense of swasthya. It restores Arjuna's emotional and physical. We can say the physical health, well, he didn't have a sickness over there, but physical health was a result of a breakdown. Sometimes Arjuna's initial symptoms chapter 1 symptoms can be compared with stress. And well, that is true. We often think of stress as being caused by having too many things to do. And yes, that is true at one level, that if you have too many things to do, it causes stress. But what causes even more stress is actually having too many difficult decisions to make. Say, if we have a very busy week, we have 100 things to do, and then that can cause us stress. But then that is not that difficult. Okay, we'll just decide, this I can do, this I have to delegate to someone else, this I have to delay or postpone. And nobody expects us to be at two places at the same time. So we understand. So too many things to do, that stress is manageable. But too many difficult decisions to make. So suppose we have to make a decision. Should I relocate from this city to that city? Okay, then if I relocate, should I take a house here or there? Should I put my children in this school or that school? Should I have this size house or that size house? Now, when all these decisions are to be made, each of these decisions is an important decision. And in these kind of decisions, it's rare that it's like rarely clear that this is the right decision and this is a wrong decision. It's more like maybe this is a good decision and that is a better decision. Or sometimes it's like this is a bad decision, that is a worse decision. So when we say difficult decisions, that means a decision is relatively easy if it is good versus bad. Then it's not a difficult decision. Difficult decision is versus it's good versus better. And we are unable to decide which is good versus better. Or sometimes it is bad versus worse. That means sometimes we are in a bad situation, say we just lost a job, and that is itself, and we are in a vulnerable situation. We have to take another job. Maybe it's not the kind of job we would like to take, but we have to. So it's which is the less worse situation. So when we have this kind of difficult decisions to make, that is when we get overworked mentally. So Arjuna was faced with such a difficult decision. He had a dharma sammoha. He had his kula dharma on one side. According to his kula dharma, he should not fight because he has to protect his family. And then he has Kshatriya dharma. The warrior, kula dharma means don't fight. Kshatriya dharma means fight. So what should he do among these two things? Should he fight or should he not fight? That is a question that has no easy answer. For him, there is good on both sides and there's bad on both sides. Good on both sides is that if he does his kula dharma, his family is protected. If he does his kshatriya dharma, his kingdom is protected. His kingdom is protected from unrighteous people, vicious people, in fact. So what to do? That is a dilemma. And that dilemma can be so crippling. So for all of us, when we talk about health, sometimes just our health goes down because of factors beyond our control. So there's a pandemic and we get infected. But sometimes we may have either misplaced or confused priorities. Misplaced means that something higher, something more important, we are treating it as less important, and something less important, we are treating it as more important. And confused means we're just not sure what is more important, what is less important. Say we have a urgent meeting in our office, make or break meeting for our career, and that time we come to know that there is some issue with our child in school and the principal has called us. We say, obviously I should go to my and be there for my child. The principal has called me, but he said, oh, but I need my job. If I lose my job, what will I do? So at such a time, do I do my duty as a parent first, or do I do my duty as a professional first? There is no easy way to resolve this. And it's not that somebody who decides that, no, right now this meeting is so important, I just cannot leave. That doesn't make them a bad person. Maybe their priorities are misplaced, maybe their priorities are confused, or maybe just not clear in that situation. So this is the situation which brings a lot of stress. See, our mind gets stressed, not so much, as I said, because of having a lot of work to do. It is having a lot of unclear or unproductive work to do. See, if we are doing some hard work, okay, I have to complete this project and I'm doing this. If we are doing that, then the mind is busy. We may get tired, but we don't feel so stressed. We get immersed in it. But when we're doing one thing and we think, maybe I should be doing the other thing. Should be doing this or this or that. And in that situation, the stress becomes far greater, much, much greater actually. So how does the Gita resolve this stress for Arjuna? That is the key question. And for all of, there are many aspects to which we need to take care of for our health, but especially if you don't want inner volatility, inner fragility, inner breakdown, then we need not just values. Values are important, but a hierarchy of values. Values essentially is what we can say, what is important. That is essentially about values. But hierarchy is what is how important. So this is important to this degree, that is important to that degree. So that is hierarchy of values. So we need not just, so Arjuna had values. Arjuna was not being cowardly and saying, I will not fight. Not once in the Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, does Arjuna mention that I'm afraid of dying. That's not what caused him hesitation. So, Swa Asthita, I started with Swasthya. What the Bhagavad Gita says is that if we are to be situated in our own situation, then that means we need to understand our identity and we need to harmonize our activity with our identity. To the extent we are doing like this, when these two are taken care of, then we are self-situated. The identity is more in terms of conception. Who do I think I am? And action in terms more of activity or contribution. What am I doing? If I say I'm a proud patriotic Indian, and then if I look at my life, activities, and I'm doing nothing for India. If I say I'm a Krishna devotee, and I look at my daily schedule, and there is nothing that no activity connected with Krishna that I'm doing, then there's a mismatch over there. So when our identity and our activity are aligned with who we are, that's when we are self-situated. And that is the state when we can have peace. So the whole journey of the Bhagavad Gita, in one sense, can be traced in these two activities. To restore Arjuna to swasthya, sthitosmi, what Arjuna says, Krishna focuses on helping Arjuna to understand his identity and then to align his activity with the identity. So now with respect to the question of identity, there are multiple schools of thought about identity. One school of thought is that we have no fixed identity. That there is nothing unchangeable about us. Everything is just a matter of nurture. So, for example, nowadays in America, especially, and the West, in Canada and the Western world at large, there is this whole issue of transgender, where some people they just say that, I feel like a girl may say I feel like a boy, and then is within 2-3 psychological sittings, the psychologist confirms, and then often these kids are subjected to irreversible body transforming, body mutilating surgery. So the idea is that we have no intrinsic identity. We are just who we think we are. So if I nurture the idea that I am a girl, a boy may nurture the idea that I'm a girl, then the boy becomes a girl. Now there are kids who nurture the idea that I am a cat, I am a monkey. Now are we going to do surgeries to get them to? So are we going to do that? Obviously, it's not possible also. And the other idea is that there is no change in identity possible. That means our identity is determined by nature. So, for example, in the pre-modern societies, a person's identity was more or less determined by their birth. In India, I say if somebody is born in a particular caste, then in a particular family, then that was their identity. You are a weaver, you are a priest, you are a warrior, you are a business person, you are a farmer, like that. And this was not just in India, in the West also it was like that. If somebody was born in nobility, they would be considered nobles. They would be aristocrats. And somebody was born, the technical was sir for lay people or peasants, whatever. And there was no possibility for a person to change their identity. If you are born as a farm worker, that is how you will be throughout your life. So in the past, the debate was much more towards nature. You have no capacity to change identity. And now it is much more towards nurture. So what the Gita says is that it is both nature plus nurture. But the Gita says nature refers to not just biological nature, but also spiritual nature. And nurture refers to not just present life, but also past life. So Gita takes this whole discussion to a much deeper level. So why is the identity important? Because, say, going back to the earlier example of, say, if we are a parent and our child has got some emergency in school. So depending on if I identify myself more as a parent, then forget the job, I have to go. But if I identify myself more as a professional, okay, then yeah, maybe some that can wait. So what do we identify ourselves with more? So Arjuna was confused. Should I identify myself with my kula, my dynasty, or should I identify with my profession, with my varna? So for Arjuna, it was a conflict between kula or varna. And Krishna resolved this conflict by saying that the identity is multi-level, that we have many functional identities. And then below that, we have a fundamental identity. So our functional identities may be based on our gender, our education, our nationality, our profession, our salary, somebody high, a middle class, upper middle class, lower middle class, like that. So it could be based on our complexion, somebody's fair, dark. It could be height, weight. So we have many identities which are there at a functional level, and each of these identities has its importance. But below these identities is our fundamental identity. And if we situate ourselves only in a functional identity, ultimately, the Gita says we cannot be peaceful. Because none of the functional identities are permanent. All functional identities are temporary. So if I identify myself primarily as a parent, suppose somebody is identified themselves primarily as a mother, and my responsibility to my children is my most important responsibility. It's good. Nowadays, parenting is often devalued, especially third, fourth generation feminism teaches often women that that marriage and motherhood are simply traps which will prevent you from growing in your career. It's a very distorted understanding. Life has multiple dimensions. So somebody say identifies only with their role as a parent. But then what will happen is it's important to identify oneself as a parent, to take that responsibility. But the children will need us much more when, say, they are newborn, when they are babies, when they're small children. When the children becomes teens, when the children become adults, they don't want the parents to be hovering over them all the time. I need my space. They may love us, but still they need their space. So if the children get married and go to their own homes, or they have their jobs elsewhere, and if one's identity is solely as a parent, then who am I if I don't have any children to take care of? That functional identity as a parent is temporary. Similarly, somebody identifies themselves only as a professional. Okay, I'm a software engineer, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, whatever. Then what happens when sometimes the profession itself goes down sometimes? Sometimes some professions are no longer like lucrative. Sometimes we lose some abilities by which you can do some profession. Somebody is a surgeon and there's an accident which they lose their hands. What are they going to do after that? Somebody is a sports player and they become too old to perform in sports. Then what is their identity? So all functional identities are temporary. So for us, if we are to be internally peaceful and healthy, taking care of ourselves, so care means that we may identify with our functional identities, but it is much more important that we identify with our fundamental identity. Otherwise, ashantasya kutaha sukham. The functional identities are always flickering. So Krishna tells Arjuna, what is our fundamental identity? Is there something to me beyond my gender, beyond my bank balance, beyond my salary, beyond my job, beyond my relationships? Yes, Krishna says that core, that fundamental identity is that we are Atma. We are souls. And the soul doesn't exist in isolation, the soul exists in relation. The Atma is a part of Krishna. So for us, we understand that this is our fundamental identity. And then we align all our functional identities in relationship with that fundamental identity. So I'm a soul who is a servant of Krishna. And then in my service to Krishna, I'm a parent. In my service to Krishna, I'm a software engineer. In my service to Krishna, I'm an American, I'm an Indian, I'm a male, I'm a female, whatever. So our fundamental identity becomes the foundation for us. And what happens is, if we are identifying only with the functional identity, say I'm here, and my one functional identity pulls me in one direction. It is pulling me, and another functional identity pulling me in the other direction. Not just another, a different direction, but an opposite direction. Then it's just agonizing. What should I be doing? But if we understand that ultimately all my identities, say I am here, and all my identities are ultimately meant to link me with Krishna. So function identity one, I'm doing this for Krishna, I'm doing this for Krishna, I'm doing this for Krishna. Then if we understand this, then what happens for us is there is a harmony in our life. And we can decide, okay, what is more important for my service to Krishna at this particular situation. And accordingly, we make the decision. So what the Gita does is, it starts with the question of identity. It establishes to Arjuna that you are the Atma. And then the question comes up, is it that you tell somebody you are the soul and it's done? No, each identity, identity has two aspects to it. Identity has to be recognized, and then it has to be realized. What is the difference between recognition and realization? That, see, our identity is based on a part of who we are. Say, for example, a newborn child, the child doesn't even know the mother exists. It's just some nice soft substance from which something nice juicy comes, and I like that. But later on, the child starts understanding, okay, this is my mother. This is a person who loves me. And she's called mama, she's called mother, mom, whatever it is. There's recognition. And then you understand that, okay, I am the child. I recognize it. Okay, I am the child, is the mother. And then a child means a child needs to act in relationship with that mother. And that means, okay, mother tells me to do this, I should do this. So for us, recognizing we are Atma, this is a matter of philosophy. We study and we understand. But realizing that we are Atma, that is a matter of practice. So then I started about Swa-Astita. To be well situated means that we basically have our identity and our activity in alignment. So how do we do this? Krishna talks about 3 ways about bringing about this alignment with identity and activity. That is through Karma Yoga, through Bhakti Yoga, and through Jnana Yoga. And these correspond to the 3 main divisions of the Bhagavad Gita. And all 3, in one sense, are meant for one purpose. If you want to understand the Gita's flow, say this is a bull's eye. Somehow I don't like the word bullseye. Such a brutal image that it's like bullseye is the target. So why do you want to hurt a bull? And why do you hurt a bull in the eye? If somebody says, I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to shoot you in the eye. Shooting in the eye doesn't kill, but it hurts terribly. The eye is a very vulnerable part of our body. So in the past, it was life was much more brutal in many ways. So, but anyway, let's use the word bullseye. We use a simple target. So if somebody can hit that target with an arrow, they're expert. But if somebody is really expert, they can hit the target not only from the front, but they are at an angle, and from there also they hit the target. From another angle also they hit the target. And that will require a lot of expertise. So Krishna has one purpose in the Bhagavad Gita. And that is to guide Arjuna out of his confusion. And so that is the target, that is the bullseye. And Krishna hits the target in multiple ways. He hits the target by analyzing through Karma Yoga, by analyzing through Jnana Yoga, and by analyzing through Bhakti Yoga. Through all of these, he brings the Gita to the same conclusion. Now, I won't go into all 3 of these modes of analysis. In detail. But let's put it this way, that the Gita actually has a slightly more sophisticated way of understanding. So it is like, so as I said, one understanding is that the Gita has first 6 chapters are about Karma Yoga. The next 6 chapters are about Bhakti Yoga. The next 6 chapters are about Jnana Yoga. That's a fair enough understanding, but there's a more precise understanding, you can say. That actually, if you consider Karma Yoga to be here, Jnana Yoga to be here, Bhakti Yoga to be here. So how it is that the Gita in the first 6 chapters about going from Karma Yoga to Bhakti Yoga. In the last 6 chapters, it talks about going from Jnana Yoga to Bhakti Yoga. And in the middle 6 chapters, it's simply describing Bhakti Yoga. And it describes Bhakti Yoga itself at multiple levels. So the whole point of the Gita is Krishna is not starting off the Gita to explain Karma Yoga, to explain Bhakti Yoga, to explain Jnana Yoga to Arjuna. See, for example, if somebody has cancer, now we may offer them, if we are doctors, we may offer them multiple treatments. Let's say we tell them, okay, this is you can do chemotherapy, you can do natural therapy, you can do this therapy, that therapy. Now at that time, our purpose is not to give them an exhaustive explanation of chemotherapy or radiotherapy or natural therapy or whatever. Our purpose is to give them that knowledge which will help them treat their disease. So when somebody has got cancer, they don't have to be given a course material that will expect them to do PhD in chemotherapy. That's not at all required or relevant. Similarly, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is not starting off with the purpose, okay, I'm going to teach Karma Yoga, I'm going to teach Bhakti Yoga, I'm going to teach Jnana Yoga. So he's addressing Arjuna's dilemma. And in addressing Arjuna's dilemma, Krishna outlines various processes as means to address his dilemma. So let's see how he does it. So the Atma, the idea that we are souls, can be realized in different ways. And among various processes, Krishna says that the Bhakti Yoga is the highest. Why? Because Bhakti Yoga brings us to the full level of Swa-astha, Swa-asthitaha. Because we are not just souls. We are souls in relationship with Krishna. And Karma Yoga helps us to realize that we are souls. Jnana Yoga also helps us to realize we are souls. But these processes in themselves don't help us to realize that we are also eternal parts of Krishna, meant to be in a loving relationship with him. That is what Bhakti Yoga alone does. And that's why Bhakti Yoga is like the fullest therapy. Sometimes some medicine, some treatment, it says, okay, you're in the hospital, you will get free from the infection, but then after that you go to convalescent home. Then you go somewhere in a peaceful place and we will remove the infection from your body, but the body's recovery of natural strength, that you have to do somewhere else. You go somewhere else and do it. So like that, what Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, they do is, they remove misidentification. That's like removing germs, removing infection from the body. And that's important, that's essential for health. But Bhakti Yoga, what it does is, it removes misidentification, but it also restores real identification, restores our real identity for us. That's like recuperation, recuperating health, recuperating our vitality. So, okay, the germs are removed, but still the body is weak. You go to some convalescent home, then you recover over there. So Bhakti Yoga does both, and Bhakti Yoga alone does both. And that's why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita emphasizes Bhakti Yoga so much. So coming back to the context of I'll make 2 more points and then we can have a few questions. That in the Gita, what Krishna does is that Krishna tells Arjuna that there are many things, many ways in which he could decide what he's supposed to do. As he can say, is this Kula Dharma important? Kshatriya Dharma important? Is your highest Dharma is your Sanatan Dharma. Is your eternal function. Eternal function is that you are my part, your soul. And that's why 1866 is about this. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. So mam ekam sharanam. Surrender to me alone. Now that does not mean that all the other dharmas are rejected. Now, the way Arjuna surrenders to Krishna is by fighting the war. So like earlier I said that here, if you go back, that our functional identity is used to help us connect with Krishna, to help us act according to our fundamental identity. So in that particular situation, Krishna tells Arjuna that you are meant to serve me. So your Sanatan Dharma is best performed in this particular situation through your Kshatriya Dharma. Let me say, for example, in our movement when the book distribution was very emphasized, even now it's emphasized. The book distribution was very emphasized. At that time, some of the temple leaders told devotees that just even young mothers, they were told, just go out and distribute books. And there was one common caretaker for all the small children in the community. And that one person would take care, and everybody, all other young mothers would also go to distribute books. And then when Prabhupada came to know about it, Prabhupada said, no. He said, your children are not ordinary children. They are like Vaikuntha children. You should take care of them. Taking care of children is as important as worshipping the deities, if not more. So Prabhupada said that in this, you may be a book distributor, you are a mother. So your Sanatan Dharma, your role as a devotee can be performed much better as a mother than as a book distributor at that particular time. There will be other times when, you can serve Krishna better as a book distributor. So there can be other times when Krishna and Arjuna could have served Krishna better by doing his Kula Dharma. So now when we do one duty for Krishna, does that say when Arjuna is doing his Kshatriya Dharma, is he neglecting his Kula Dharma? It's not neglecting, it is subordinating. Krishna tells Arjuna that you are thinking that if I fight, if I do my Kshatriya Dharma, if I fight, I have to kill my relatives. I have to shoot arrows at Bhishma and Drona, and they will be, how can I cause them such pain? How can I be the cause of their death? And Krishna tells Arjuna, you are seeing externally. Just as you are not seeing your identity, you are not seeing their identity also. They are souls. And you are thinking Bhishma's plight. His plight, his painful situation will be because of your physical arrows. When you shoot it at them, this which will shoot if you fight. But Krishna says that actually what is true is his plight is because of Duryodhana's verbal arrows. Duryodhana is constantly suspecting and taunting Bhishma. He says, you are partial to the Pandavas. You are not dedicated enough to my cause. You are not fighting to their full potential. And for a Kshatriya, this is extremely difficult to bear. The idea that their character is questioned, their commitment is questioned. So those Duryodhana's verbal arrows are far more painful, and he has to bear those arrows because he's obligated to fight on the side of the Duryodhana. But if you fight, then he will be liberated from that situation. And once he's liberated from that situation, because he's a virtuous soul, because he's a devoted soul, he will be elevated and he will go to a better destination. So even your Kula Dharma, your concern for Bhishma, that will also be addressed if you serve me. And when Arjuna understands this, so Sarva Dharman Paritaja doesn't mean that give up all dharma and become adharmic. It means take up that dharma which is in alignment with our Sanatan Dharma, which enables us to do Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. And this way, when we understand that we are in harmony with Krishna, say in life, there are things which are in our control. And so there's some things in our control. And there are things which are beyond our control. So dharma has both these aspects. For the things that are in our control, there is diligence. We take up responsibility and we do those duties very wholeheartedly. As Arjuna did when he chose to fight on behalf of Krishna. But along with that, there is dependence. For the things beyond our control, there is dependence. And this is the understanding that will bring us peace of mind, that will situate us in who we actually are. And that is how we will actually become peaceful. Peaceful not just by expecting the removal of outer conflict, but peaceful by aligning ourselves with who we really are. So Krishna has a big plan for the world. And in Krishna's plan, I have also a place. So let me do my part in Krishna's plan, and Krishna will take care of other things. It is this understanding, this inner conception, that will actually situate us in sound health and peacefulness and confidence, as Arjuna was situated at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll summarize. I said that the Bhagavad Gita can be approached in many different ways. One way is we approach it as a guidebook for swasthya, swa astitaha, how we can be situated in our natural positions. Arjuna was physically and emotionally dysfunctional at the end of the Gita. So from 1:30 to 1873 is a journey towards health through harmony. Harmony in the sense of Arjuna becomes aligned with who he really is. And in that connection, second point I discussed was how Gita talks about our identity as multi-level identity. So we have many functional identities. Below that, we have a fundamental identity. And our functional identities are temporary. Our fundamental identity is one and eternal. This functional identity are multiple. So if we need to actually be peacefully situated, we need to stop identifying with our functional identities first. First, identify our fundamental identity, and then that our fundamental identities, we are souls, we are parts of Krishna. And we are meant to align with Krishna and use all our functional identities to align with Krishna. And the third part I talked about is from identity, activity, harmony. So that means there are three ways. The activities is karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. And among these, the bhakti yoga is most recommended because bhakti yoga doesn't just help us like in treatment, removing infections. It like removes misidentification, but it also restores health. It helps a person to recuperate. It restores us in our real identity as parts of Krishna. And the last part to discuss based on that is that to be situated rightly, that means to understand our role, our place in Krishna's bigger plan. So for our role, there is diligence. We work wholeheartedly. And for the bigger situation, there is dependence. And it is this state of mind which is the state of emotional health based on spiritual realignment with who we are. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. You may raise your hand if you have any specific questions or any comments. Thank you so much for the beautiful Katha, Prabhu. It was so nectarian, especially the functional identities and fundamental identities. I myself can feel that like I have now my Atma. So identification itself is very beautiful. I realized it with your classes yesterday, today. Thank you so much for all your kathas from last 2 days. Ujjwala Mataji, you may take over, Mataji.
Thank you. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Thank you so very much. That inner settlement for individual harmony as we walk together in this journey of bhakti. And the summary that you do at the end of your kathas is unparalleled, Prabhu. And now that I think you're using this handwritten one, we feel like we are writing the notes, but the notes is at the best as it is coming from you. Thank you so very much, Prabhu. Yes, dear devotees, thank you, Prabhu.
Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, you can talk now.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. You talked about the Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, they help in removing the misidentity. And Bhakti Yoga, it establishes our real identity. Whereas Jnana Yoga talks about Nitya Viveka, and then in that knowledge, in that light, we can understand like we are Atmans. But kindly elaborate, how can we understand it through Karma Yoga?
How does Karma Yoga help us realize our identity? Well, through Karma Yoga, basically, when we work with detachment, what happens is that we start realizing that we have a core that exists beyond our identities, beyond our functional identities. And in the process of functioning with detachment, it's like an actor is playing a role on a drama stage, and if that actor is very attached to the applause or the accolades or the wealth that is going to come thereafter, and the actor is constantly thinking about that role. But the actor does that role, but the actor is not too attached to that. The actor starts realizing, okay, yeah, this is actually a stage, and I'm playing this role, but I'm different from that role. So similarly for us, what detachment does is, this is the, if you consider this is the soul, this is the mind, this is the body, and detachment basically helps us. It increases the distance between the soul and the mind. It increases the distance between the mind and the body. And thereby, we are able to see these parts of us as different from us. And that's how it helps us realize. Now, both Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, they aim for the same process. So Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga works more through action, and Jnana Yoga works more through contemplation. Now, the Vivek is also awakened through Karma Yoga also. The Buddhi is developed through detachment. So the idea is that we don't necessarily have to give up activity to realize our higher, to progress towards realizing our identity. Like somebody may say, I won't participate in this drama at all. But somebody can participate in that drama, but they have a little bit more dispassion. They have a little more detachment. And slowly they start saying, yeah, there is more to life than just the way I'm moving my hands and the way I'm laughing and the way people are clapping. Something bigger than going on over here. That's how we realize it. Okay. Yes, Nityamanjari Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I have one question. So you said that we should determine the best method of service and then follow that method of service. Who tells us what the best method of service is? Like for Arjuna, Krishna told him that the best way to serve me is to actually fight in my service. Who tells us what our best method of service is?
Well, even for Arjuna, Krishna did not really tell throughout the Gita that Krishna's purpose was not just to give Arjuna a decision. If that's what Krishna wanted to do, Krishna could have just told Arjuna in 6 words. I am God, obey me, fight. Bhagavad Gita over. Krishna's purpose in speaking the Gita was not to give a decision. It was to train Arjuna in decision making. And that's why he went through 700 verses. That was the purpose, but that was the more important. The more important purpose was train in decision making. And for us also, we can connect with a guru, we can have senior devotees who guide us. But the purpose of a guru, the purpose of a counselor, the purpose of a mentor, the purpose of a guide is not to make us dependent on them. As disciples or as followers, we always feel dependent on the guidance and mercy and blessings of seniors. But the success of their blessings, their mercy, their guidance is that we become trained in the process of decision making and we make decisions. So yes, initially we do consult senior devotees, but over a period of time, we learn to use our God-given intelligence. And for major decisions, we can always consult senior devotees, but afterwards, it is for us to decide how best we can serve Krishna. And there are broad guidelines which are given. Say if we consider this is the range of activity that we do. So there are some which are, we could say, white, in the sense that they are fully recommended activities. And there are some which are wrong, which are unhealthy activities, which are to be given up. And then to the extent we do what is known to be good for us, and we avoid that which is known to be bad for us, then, so this, you can say this is white, this is black, and all this in the middle is a gray zone. So what is the gray will slowly become clearer with time if we align with the white and we avoid the black. So black and white, we generally learn from our spiritual guides. We hear classes and we understand from there. And then after that, specifics we learn thereafter through inner revelation, through experience, through maturity. Prabhupada in the introduction of Nectar of Instruction says that once we come to the mode of goodness, then how to advance further is revealed from within. Okay. Yes, Krishna Priyamataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my obeisances, all glories to Prabhupada. I wanted to thank you for the very nice class that you gave today. And my reflection is that one, that you are addressing the audience that you're speaking with. And this is very important, that I was appreciating that you, although you might be in a different ashram in life, at the same time, you're aware of the different priorities and difficulties that people have to face in their life. So I was really appreciating how you were giving, practical guidance from Bhagavad Gita, from Shastra, of making different points. And one point that I really appreciated, having come from the old days in ISKCON, when you brought up that point about Prabhupada said, that for the mothers, taking care of your children is like the deity worship. And so sometimes in the beginning stage of one's devotional life, they will feel so much enthusiasm, which is natural, and they want to take up the manobhistam, the inner desire of the spiritual master, and to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. But sometimes there has to be, like you were stressing, that we have to know what our priorities are, and that at different times we have a different service. So I was really appreciating that point you brought up, that at one time you have a particular service and that Krishna has a plan. And, those children that have been given to you, they are not ordinary children. And that's a very sacred service. And how you treat those children, how you raise those children, if you treat them like an ashram, then they can grow up and do probably a lot better service than the generation before. But if you neglect the children, then that causes, it's actually offenses, and it causes great difficulty. So I was just very, very much appreciating that you brought up that point, that at different times in our devotional service, we'll have different services to do, and that and if we do those services nicely, then we can go on to other things when the time is right. And I also really appreciated your point about the upadis very much too, because if I'm identifying, all right, my identity is just, then I'm a mother, then when my children go away, it's the empty nest syndrome. Or if I identify, like once I was the temple president here, if I identify, oh, I'm the temple president, I'm Miss New Galoka, then when I'm no longer the temple president, then I have no identity. So I was just appreciating that point that what is our identity? Our identity is where the nature of our soul is meant to serve, and Krishna will reveal to us. So I just want to tell you, I really appreciate it. I'm not usually on this forum, but Ujjwala had posted it, and so I thought I would just sort of jump on and participate. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anji. Happy to do your service. Yes, the Prabhupada's own example is there. Prabhupada, when he met Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur for the first time, he said that if I had not been married, I would have immediately joined the ashram. But now I had a wife, I had a child. It would have been Prabhupada used the word, it would have been unfair to them if I had left at that time. So Prabhupada also considered his responsibility as important.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Mother Krishna Priya, thank you so much for bringing that point. And Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, we specifically thank you for that specific point, as Krishna Priya Mataji mentioned, because that is the driving force for this wholesome devotee care thing, to better understand bhakti, and as you both were saying, to prioritize the service according to time, place, circumstance, the ashram we are in, so we can practice bhakti in harmony. If there is no harmony and peace in bhakti, the steadiness will be too far. So I think that point really defines the whole thing, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. And if you would like to say a few words about that, bhakti in harmony by addressing all these aspects of health, how that would take us further in bhakti. And after that, we may close this session, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll make one point about that. See, there's a question about how does one carry out Sanatana Dharma if a particular duty does not align with our inclinations. I think again, it's a matter of time. Like we may be inclined toward higher studies, but we have family responsibilities. Well, we live in a world whose structure is very different from what was in the past. So in the past, say, people would be born in families where they would naturally have inclinations. That's ideal Varnashram system was. Now it's not. Sometimes we have to adjust. At a particular phase in my life, I focus on a particular duty. Later on, I may do some other duty. Even in the temple, somebody is living in the temple, in the ashram. Sometimes a project needs a particular service. Somebody may be more inclined towards studying Shastra and teaching Shastra. But if a particular time requires that, okay, our temple is in a big crisis, we have to raise some funds now, we have to build a temple, then that's what we need to do. Giriraj Maharaj tells that story about how Prabhupada told him to write, but then they were doing a big pandal program. And at that time, Giriraj Maharaj, he was Giriraj Prabhu at that time, he wanted to write, but Shyamsundar Prabhu said, right now, we want to do this pandal program. So he says that you can write anytime, but right now we have an opportunity to approach influential people and ask them for contributions, and we have a reason they will give. Later on, we will not be able to ask. So he said that he talked with Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, yes, that service is important right now. You do it that now. So that way, I think time is also a factor. Rather than thinking that we can't do what is according to our inclinations, you can say, okay, maybe I can't do it right now. Let's wait. We don't grow only by doing something according to inclinations. We may also grow by learning a mode of service, attitude, and sacrifice, where to do something which is important at that particular time. And just to conclude this point, see, there is one conception of bhakti, that this is the spiritual world, this is the material world, and bhakti means that we turn away from the material world and go toward Krishna. This is the one understanding of bhakti. Krishna exists in the spiritual world, and the material world is simply a place of distress. But another understanding of bhakti is that that Krishna pervades both the material and the spiritual world. Krishna mentions this in 1846 to 48. He says, Swakarma itaha pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tapam. Swakarmanatam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manava. So that from that being from whom the whole world emanates, and from that being by whom the whole world is pervaded, we serve that being by working in a mode of worship. So we could say that there is immersive devotion, immersive bhakti, where we turn away from the world to focus on Krishna directly. That is the time for our sadhana, that is the time for our puja, for our for direct devotional activities. And there's a time for inclusive bhakti. Immersive bhakti is we turn away from the world toward Krishna. Inclusive bhakti is we understand that the world is also included in Krishna's jurisdiction. Krishna doesn't exist only in the temple. Krishna exists in our home. Krishna exists in our workplace. And we serve Krishna through our various activities in the world. So there is, ideally speaking, we seek a healthy balance between immersive bhakti and inclusive bhakti. So immersive bhakti in terms of time, it will always be lesser. It will be for a few hours a day or whatever. And inclusive bhakti will be more in time. But what will immersive bhakti and inclusive bhakti, both of them can nourish each other. So when we immerse ourselves in Krishna, that gives us inner stability. That I am grounded in something unchanging. And then we can face the changes of the world with greater maturity, with greater clarity. And inclusive bhakti, it gives us a sense of value, of productivity. We are in this world and we would like to do some things in the world. It is, if somebody tells us, okay, from tomorrow you have no responsibility, just chant 64 rounds or 128 rounds every day. We might love to do it for a couple of days, or somebody says, just read Bhagavatam, or just do kirtans for 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. We might like that, but after some time we'll want to do some more things. What more can I do? So we want a sense that I want to do something productive in this world also. And when we see, actually, by my bhakti, I can do my role as a parent better. I'm more calmer, I'm more caring, I'm more responsible. By my bhakti, I can actually, my mind is calmer, my mind is clearer, and I can do my job better. That inspires us to immerse ourselves in bhakti also. In practicing immersive bhakti. So immersive and inclusive bhakti both can be harmonized in this way. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Chaitanya Prabhu. Just the concluding statements. As we were discussing yesterday, physical health, that quarter is over in this year. And now you are starting the spiritual health session. Thank you for being with us here. So this quarter, we will be having topics on spiritual health. So this week is Bhagavad Gita, and other weeks we have different speakers coming to. After that will be talks on emotional health, and wholesome devotee care workshop is coming to integrate all these aspects and to bring it to practice so we can have bhakti in harmony. So with this, yes, we'll see you all later, dear devotees, and Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Thank you so very much for being with us here. We appreciate your presence and your bhakti wisdom very much. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.